your office is anywhere that you are. But the last one, so there are these policies that need to be brought in which allow you off-track options and give you much more flexibility in terms of work hours, etc. The last one, which is the most difficult, are attitudes. And attitudes, some are more blatant and some can be codified through policies like having, as we have done recently, a sexual harassment policy to be brought on board. Others are really codified and embedded into the way you work and the way you think. I'll give you just one example without going into detail for a shortage of time. Just think about it. How do we develop our leadership models? How have they been developed? Did anybody do a grassroots study and start from afresh and came up with what the perfect leader would be? No. The way these models have been developed, you go out into the workplace, you find out who are the successful leaders, you try and identify and list what are the characteristics of a successful leader, you find the common elements in there and you say, voila, I've got this. If you've got these 7 things, you're going to be a successful leader. Who are those successful leaders you study to come up with this model? Men. Okay, so what you're seeing is a model of leadership of successful men. It is not necessarily the only model available, and therefore we need to address over the long run even issues like our leadership models, which are going to be implicit. And if you really want to make sure that 50% of the talent that resides in this nation and that resides in this globe is fully tapped into and utilized.
Thank you, Asad. You touched on a lot of very important issues there. Let me ask you a tough question on this one, please. What percentage of your workforce are women?
Very small fraction, but that has a very good reason for it, but very few in leadership, and that doesn't have a good reason in it.
Right.
The reason I say why it's okay.
Are these reasons or excuses?
No, as I said, the first one is a good reason. The second one, I'll give you excuses, right? There isn't a good reason. The reason why the number of women are fewer in our workplace is the nature of business. The fertilizer factory, the plant where it's located, it's 65% of the total manpower of chemicals, right? It's Dherki, it's a remote location. Women don't want to work there, and that's a fact of life. It's also mostly engineering. If you go to an engineering school, you'll basically see 1 to 2% being engineers. Women don't like this profession, and by the way, that's not just in Pakistan. Even in the US, women don't like engineering as a profession, partly due to the remote location. Sales is 25% of the manpower. That's all over remote locations, not conducive to it, right? But that still doesn't mean that of the 10 or 12 people who are sitting in leadership position, 3 or 4 could not have come from, couldn't be women. We have ZIP right now. Until very recently, we had never had a department manager. That's the 3rd tier of leadership in our company. Never had a single woman in our management positions. In the last 6 months, we've added 3. Till 2 years back, we had never had a female director on any of our boards. We now have 3.
You're almost saying it as a celebration. I'm sorry to go the other way around,
right.
Is saying you got the first. But what do business leaders like you need to do to fundamentally and just change the paradigm?
That's precisely what I was trying to tell you. You see, you don't change the paradigm. I used to talk a lot about this, and nothing changed.
Okay.
And you have to understand what are the roadblocks, and that's what I just told. That's what we did. We went through a very detailed exercise. We put together a diversity workforce, a task force. They came up with a whole list of suggestions. You have to address infrastructure issues. You have to address work, lifestyle balance issues. You have to address attitude. You have to address all 3. And then you have to make some specific interventions that I just did. I just told you about having women at a director level and so on and so forth. And then you're going to start seeing change. Otherwise, you can keep talking about it and nothing will change.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'll stay on the corporate side for the next sort of 5 minutes, for the next couple of questions, and then we'll look at some of the softer issues based around leadership and the evolving trends and so on. I'd like to bring in other corporate person, Nadia, if I can bring you into this. Do you think that there is, you're a woman, you're very successful in your business life and your career. Do you feel that there is a glass ceiling that you keep hitting regularly and people around you keep hitting regularly? Do they always see this glass ceiling? And what are you doing about it?
Can I use your mic, please? Thank you, Tariq. I'm glad you asked me that question. Well, I represent Young Business and Professional Women International and the JS Group. We say we're an equal opportunity employer, and we practice it for sure. We've got a lot of women in senior positions in executive levels, and I understand what Asad is saying about difference in leadership styles. And I feel that being a woman, I have an advantage. I have emotional intelligence that I'm born with. And for men, while that's an acquired skill, for me, I've been gifted with it when I'm born, so I think I have that edge over
By the way,
men.
Nadia, I'm very high on emotional intelligence also.
You've acquired it.
No, but that's considered a weakness. People say I'm a wimp because I have emotional intelligence, because I have a softer view of. So as a guy, as a CEO of a company, I have this soft touch. And people think I'm a wimp. I'm not. So please, could you qualify that? Because
It's also about how you use the emotional
Okay, fair
intelligence.
enough.
So I think women have mastered that art. So coming back to your question, I just wanted to start with that. Yes, there is a glass ceiling, and trust me, it's not just in Pakistan.
No, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah.
It's all over the world.
It's not a cultural thing at all. I think in Pakistan, because I sit at international forums and I listen to their problems and I know exactly what's going on globally, I know that we Pakistani women have it so much better than some of the women in Latin America or in Northern America do. It's shocking, but the US is perhaps the most chauvinistic country I've ever come across.
That was not supposed to be a clap, but anyway, there you go.
No.
No, because
it's on
Obama is
paper
going around
because
trying to do good
I'm-
things in the Middle East.
I am
so
going to
guess-
share some research with you.
Yeah, fair
I'm
enough.
going to back it with numbers, don't worry. There is a gender pay equity gap. Women are not paid equally. When I say not equitably, it means that for the same position, same level of skills, same number of work hours put in, maybe more talent, a woman is only paid 70 cents for every dollar that a man is paid. And this is an average number. There are places where the divide is 50 cents. So it's shocking. I mean, really, me being an activist, I speak about it at the UN. We try and combat that, but yes, there is a glass ceiling. And if you're going to ask me how we're going to break that glass ceiling, I think Hillary Clinton did say something about that glass ceiling, about how many million cracks being there in the glass ceiling.
How many what, sorry?
How many cracks, how many votes did she get? She said there's X million number of cracks in this glass ceiling today. And I don't feel that, that would have happened to her if she was in Pakistan. We've had so many women leaders in Pakistan. So there are countries like Pakistan where the Prime Minister has been a woman, where the Speaker of the National Assembly is a woman, where the Governor of the State Bank has been a woman. And then there are other countries that are still struggling with that. And within the corporate sector, every time I believe a woman steps up to a senior position, she makes sure that more women step up to another leadership role. And I think that's how we can make a difference. I mean, it's all about women making things easier for other women.
Thank you. I'm going to volunteer a suggestion here. I think, and this was going to come at the end, but I keep breaking rules, so I'll break one of them. One of the suggestions that I had at the end was to actually have a glass ceiling commission. Actually, and there are examples of this in the world today, where actual bodies, and because you're facing the issue, it's called glass ceiling commission, not women's empowerment commission, and that's too flat, I mean, that's just too diluted. It's a glass ceiling commission. And then educate the things that Asad spoke about in terms of attitude, and various other factors like that. So I'm going to ask this question to the panel later. Should we have a glass ceiling commission? Should we have this in our business schools? And every man has to pass his credits on the glass ceiling commission and gender sensitivity commission.